Effective Kotlin. Item 12. Use operators to increase readability. In the previous item, I warned about the misuse of operator overloading. In this chapter, I would like to show the usefulness of operators for improving readability. Let's start with a clear example. With operators, we can operate on big decimal and big integer similarly to regular numbers. For instance, we can take a net price, a tax, and a current balance, all as big decimal values, and then calculate the new balance by subtracting the net price times the tax from the current balance. When we print it, we get 17.7. We can also add duration to time. We take the current zoned date time, create a duration of 1 day, and simply add the duration to now to get the same time tomorrow. You can do the same by using explicit methods. Instead of the minus and times operators, you call the minus and times functions, and instead of the plus operator, you call the plus function. I hope that the value of using operators here is clear. All classes that are comparable can also be compared with comparison operators. That is greater than, less than, greater than or equal, and less than or equal, or with a range check, like value in min.max. This includes big numbers like big decimal and big integer, and objects used to represent time and duration like instant, zoned date time, local date, duration, and so on. This is important because we often operate on these types and we often need to compare them. And I hope it is clear that if you represent money, you should use big decimal instead of double, which might round some numbers and lose precision. So instead of calling methods like isAfter, isBefore, or compareTo, we can simply write that now is greater than start, now is less than end, or now is in the range from start to end. The same goes for prices. Price greater than min price, price less than max price, or price in the range from min price to max price. Although isAfter and isBefore might be more readable than comparison operators, I hope it seems clear that operators are clearly easier to understand in other cases. It is worth noticing that there is an inconsistency between the big decimal functions equals and compareTo. The equals function checks the number of decimal places, so big decimal of 1.0 is not equal to big decimal of 1.00. This is something you should consider when you compare two numbers. This is one of the reasons why we tend to use big decimal numbers with the same precision across a whole project. The compareTo function does not look at the precision, so it is possible that A is greater than or equal to B, A is less than or equal to B, but A is not equal to B. So the contract of compareTo is violated, as explained in the item about respecting the contract of compareTo. The last typical case in which I introduce an operator is when we need to check if an element is in a collection or a set. The classic way to do this is using contains, but we could also use the in operator. For example, we can check whether supported tags contains a given tag, or, equivalently, whether the tag is in supported tags. Compare the above approaches and consider which is more readable. For me and the colleagues I discussed this matter with, using in does not always increase readability. It all depends on what the active element is. Here, the tag is active, and putting it up front makes this code easier to read, just as "there's a soda in the fridge" is more intuitive than "the fridge contains a soda." Now consider a case in which the collection is more important. For instance, "a human has a liver" seems more intuitive than "a liver is in a human." The same is true when we map over users and check whether the admin tag is in the user's tags, versus checking whether the user's tags contains the admin tag. For me, using contains in this case makes the code clear. I understand that some might feel differently about this, so please do not treat this as a hard rule, and do not force it on reviews. Writing really readable code is great art, so all the rules should be treated as suggestions. Operators can also be added to our own classes, like units of measure, money wrappers, other kinds of numbers, and others. For instance, we could define a centimeter value class with a plus operator that adds 2 centimeters together, and another plus operator that adds a value in millimeters, converting it appropriately. These are the most common cases where I introduce Kotlin operators, but there are clearly many more overloaded operators in the standard library. This was an item from the book Effective Kotlin, which covers best practices and philosophy of good quality programming in Kotlin. It covers all important aspects of programming, such as safety, readability, reusability, performance, abstraction, and class design. You can find it on LeanPub or Amazon. Its author, Marcin Muscala, offers consultations, workshops, and courses. All links in the description below. I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.